In the pinnacle of motorsport that is Formula 1, the difference between success and failure can be a very fine line. However, thanks to the modern trend of global television deals and mass social media, it's hard for the best teams in racing to hide when things go terribly wrong. However, we fans love chatting about it and glorifying the most embarrassing moments in an F1 team's journey to the top. So I've gathered what I believe to be the top 10 embarrassing F1 team moments in recent history. But if you disagree with me, please tell me so in the comments below. But before my top 10, here's a few that just missed the list. First of all, there's the British-American racing debacle of 1999, in which they launched two different coloured cars that they weren't allowed to race, so combined both colour schemes to create the infamous zip livery effect, and created the inspiring and yet pointless motto, "A tradition of excellence." Brand new team, wasn't it? Yeah, that's what I thought. Bit hard to have a tradition of excellence if you're brand new. Then there's Nigel Mansell joining McLaren for 1995, which ended abruptly when first of all he didn't fit in the car and had to be replaced by Mark Blundell. And then when he returned in time for Imola, he was woefully uncompetitive. For a world champion who had won the 1994 season finale and joined a team like McLaren, who'd won world championships with Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna, it was a particularly embarrassing blunder. Sounds familiar in a way, doesn't it, Fernando? You could argue that Eddie Jordan's discovery of Michael Schumacher was a stroke of pure genius and wouldn't be the last time he spotted a Grand Prix winner in waiting and gave them their debut in Formula 1. However, letting him go to a rival team quite so soon after, just one race for the record, was a big mistake. No, huge, and quite embarrassing. Brabham probably thought signing Giovanna Amati for 1992 would be a great idea for publicity and performance. However, neither really happened, as she proved to be uncompetitive, and the whole thing appeared to be a bit of a gimmick, and you could argue it didn't really help the equality agenda in women's rights in motorsport, and it would be 22 years before another woman competed in a Grand Prix car at a race weekend. Finally, there's the very cool, albeit woefully ill-timed three-seater F1 car project from Arrows. The backmarkers saw what McLaren had done with their two-seater car of 1998 and said, "We can do better!" But guys, McLaren were world champions and had a massive budget. Arrows had yet to win a Grand Prix, and of course, once Orange got fed up of not winning, the budget ran out. And if they hadn't spent a lot of cash on their three-seater, they might have had a few more years of racing left in them. But now, we'll never know. So, onwards to the top 10. Firstly, the return of McLaren to Honda power in 2015. This is only something that could be said in retrospect, as they reunited to great pomp and circumstance, and to claims that they'd be champions again in 3 years. But by 2017, their relationship had soured, the cars were uncompetitive, and the critics were at both companies' throats. Honda joined a new engine formula a year after Ferrari, Mercedes and Renault had all got used to the regulations, and so were never likely to catch up. Honda are now with Toro Rosso, and McLaren are now with Renault. But whether it was a good move for both companies to separate, having spent all that time developing together, is yet to be seen. As recently as 2018 comes the embarrassing blunder of a team on the ascent. It's Haas in the pits at Albert Park, failing to secure the wheels in place of not just one, but both their cars. With the team knocking on the door of the big three on the grid, it was a costly error that saw both Romain Grosjean and Kevin Magnussen parked up on the side of the road, when both of them should have scored huge points in the first race of the year. And it doesn't help that at the same time they were coping with jibes from other teams that the only reason their car was that fast was that they copied Ferrari's machine. Oh dear, oh dear. Jaguar wins the award for most embarrassing PR stunt in F1 history. I've got a good idea. What better way to celebrate the Monaco Grand Prix than to place a ridiculously expensive diamond on the nose cone of our cars? Brilliant! No, lunacy! Especially when at Monaco a first lap pile-up is more likely than at any other circuit. No surprises then that it happened to Christian Klein. He lost his nose, and when marshals recovered it, the diamond had mysteriously disappeared. I wonder why. I wonder what they told the insurance company. The year is 2008. Robert Kubica is leading the Drivers' Championship, and BMW Sauber has emerged as the dark horse for the World Championship. Okay, so next year there'll be controversial new regulations, and making sure next year's car is ready is important. But the team halted development of their 2008 machine to focus on their 2009 car just as the championship fight got interesting. That left them behind McLaren and Ferrari, and in my book, cost the Polish driver a chance at the world title. And had that have actually happened, BMW would probably still be in F1, instead of withdrawing at the end of 2009 thanks to the global economic crash, with only one win to their name, from Kubica at Montreal. in 2008. Sometimes F1 teams will do anything to try and stay afloat, but Hispania really took the biscuit in 2011. Their new car's livery was designed by Hollywood artist Daniel Simon, and it looked awesome. But for the inclusion of the sponsorship tempting phrases around the car, such as
"This could be you,"
or
"This is a cool spot,"
or
"Your logo here."
I mean, you may think fun and quirky, but in reality, it's like something out of a GCSE graphics technology project. Sadly, the spaces were never replaced by sponsors' logos, and the team lasted just one more year before going bust. But at least they looked cool doing it. Well, relatively cool. It was, at the very least, original, but it's never been repeated since. At number 5, it's the most infamous team orders incident of all time. Ferrari's Rubens Barrichello was ahead of Michael Schumacher at the Austrian Grand Prix in 2001, but they ordered the Brazilian to move aside and let team leader Schumi through to second place to aid his chances of becoming champion, which he did on the last lap, practically on the finish line, out of protest. That was pretty poor, but then unbelievably, a year later, history repeated itself and the team asked him to do the same thing at the same place, this time for the win. So once again, he left it till the very, very end of the race. Cue the biggest boo a Formula 1 crowd has ever given to a podium post-race. And too right, as many fans have still never forgiven Ferrari for doing so. Our next entrant is a tale of woe from a company many of you see in your wallet every day. Lola wanted to enter Formula 1 in 1998 and signed a commercial deal with MasterCard. However, in late 1996, the company said, "Why wait? Let's enter F1 now." So the Lola team was rushed to get a car together for 1997, or they pulled the funding. It was slow, pathetic, and woefully out of date, with both cars over 11 seconds a lap slower than pole position. The result, MasterCard didn't pay them a penny, and the team collapsed before the second race of the championship. If only they'd waited. Perhaps Lola should have sought sponsorship from Guinness. After all, they do say good things come to those who wait. At number 3, it's Spygate, McLaren versus Ferrari in the now legendary espionage scandal. Only 3? Well, let's cut a long story short. 2 disgruntled employees at each team exchanged details over the design of the 2007 Ferrari. A blueprint wound up in the hands of McLaren and were discussed with Fernando Alonso and test driver Pedro de la Rosa, amongst other people. An investigation couldn't prove McLaren had used the data on their cars, and so that should have been that. Then, Alonso felt unfairly treated by McLaren, with new teammate Lewis Hamilton doing so well. Things blew up at Hungary in qualifying, and he threatened to tell the FIA what he knew. Ron Dennis, not one to be threatened by anybody, told the FIA himself, and the case was reopened, with McLaren eventually being fined $100 million. Ferrari were unpunished. Ouch. And that's the quick version of events. But still, I do think there's more embarrassing than that. In second, it's McLaren again, I'm afraid, and in the same year. Lewis Hamilton is on the verge of winning the World Championship, but having just got over the Spygate debacle, they now have a split-second decision to make regarding tyres for Hamilton at a critical stage of the Chinese Grand Prix. The championship is all but won. The track is drying and he needs new tyres, but worried about the pace of his rivals, they keep him out one lap too long and argue over the radio. With no grip on Balding tyres, Hamilton finally pits, sliding off into the gravel at the pit lane entrance, and a guaranteed world title had he finished where he was, evaporated. It remains one of the biggest team blunders in recent history, as one race later, Raikkonen snatched the title from underneath their noses. However, no F1 team can claim to have made as many mistakes as these guys. The number 1 is Andrea Moda. The whole team is one major embarrassing tale of catastrophe and idiocy. Want to find out why? Well, we've run out of time on this video, so you're going to have to look at the next one.